You saw it again today, didn't you? The confusion, the forgetting, the mood swing that came out of nowhere. You brought it up to your sibling, maybe even your loved one's doctor, and everyone says you're overreacting. I'm here to say you're not. You are indeed seeing something real. For those of you who are new here, my name is Dr. Sinclair. I'm a neuropsychologist, dementia care specialist, and founder of the Confident Caregiver Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss why new dementia caregivers are often dismissed, as well as the steps that you can take to get the care that your loved one deserves. Let's jump on in. Here's what you're likely noticing, care partner. Dementia doesn't show up the same for everyone, and it rarely shows up in front of doctors and visitors. During the early stages of dementia, your loved one is likely relying on contextual memory as well as social masking to compensate. What do I mean by that? Contextual memory means the brain uses situational cues like location, time of day, who's around, even emotional state to recall information. Social masking is when someone with dementia maintains normal behavior using familiar scripts like small talk or humor, or even deflecting away from their symptoms. So the decline hides beneath automatic responses. It's important to note that sometimes this is conscious, but other times, care partners, it's subconscious. Your loved one doesn't even realize that they're trying to mask or deflect away from their symptoms. Let me give you an example of what I mean by contextual memory, because this is what makes those early symptoms of dementia so tricky to recognize. Think back to middle school. You probably had a locker combination, right? Now, if I asked you for that locker code, the odds of you remembering that code sitting there at your kitchen table would be very low. But if I plopped you back into your middle school right in front of that locker with your old books in hand, you would probably remember the code all these decades later. That's contextual memory. The environment, the physical cues, the emotions, all of that works together to help your brain retrieve old information. And guess what? People with dementia, early dementia, often rely on those same scaffolds, those same physical cues. And so when they're in a familiar setting with familiar people, they can appear just fine. But take away those cues or catch them outside of their routines, and that's when the cracks show. That's often what only you as the caregiver is able to see because you're around them long enough. Why you're being dismissed. Doctors see your loved one for 15 minutes in a very controlled environment. Your siblings see them during the holidays when they're well-fed, well-rested, and performing. But you are catching the patterns because you're likely speaking to your loved one a little bit more often, or maybe you're seeing them more often. So you are catching the repeated questions. You are catching the poor decisions, the forgetfulness. You're probably seeing your loved one pour orange juice in their coffee repeatedly, not just once. You're probably catching your loved one calling the dog by your name. That could be intentional, right? And you're the one who's seeing your loved one accusing you of stealing from them because they've misplaced something. So you're the one catching the patterns, but when your sibling visits, they are catching the performance. Your loved one is able to say, oh no, I'm fine, everything's great. And because they're presenting as fine in front of your siblings or others, other people aren't catching the patterns that you're catching. You're noticing the pattern, not the exception. They are noticing the exception. Why the brain masks in public. People with dementia often rely on automatic social skills and routines. What do I mean by that? Well, in early stages of dementia, there are what we refer to as automatic language or reflexive language. And so that's when your loved one is smiling and nodding along and asking about the kids. That automatic language is housed in a different part of the brain, the part of the brain that tends to be resistant to dementia a little bit longer. And so that's why in social settings, your loved one appears to be just fine because they're relying on those reflexes, those automatic social skills. Meanwhile, the decline is really happening in the background in other parts of the brain. If what you're hearing in today's video, care partner, is resonating with you, if you are starting to see some patterns with what I'm describing, then go ahead and grab that guide below. It will help you in conversations with your loved one's doctor. Now let's also move on to what else you can do when you're noticing those signs. What you can do right now, care partner, is first to document patterns instead of occasional moments. What do I mean by that? A single forgotten name or misplaced item is not going to convince anyone. It's certainly not going to convince me as a neuropsychologist. However, if my patient's family came in and said, Dr. Sinclair, my loved one repeated the same thing 4 times in 10 minutes, or tried to take their medications, the same medications 3 times today. Now that's going to get my attention. And so care partners, I really want for you to think of the data that you're collecting. It's not just going to be a one-off. It has to be a pattern that you're noticing in order to convey that information to your doctor. Bonus tip, include the time of day and the environment, care partner. Are you noticing symptoms happening only at night, in the late afternoon, after a meal, when guests are over, when it's really busy? That gives professionals context, and that's gold. Second, you can use audio or video when appropriate. You don't have to make a big production. You don't have to film for hours or anything like that, but a quick voice memo to describe the facts of what just happened, your wording, your tone, your loved one's response, that can be powerful information for your loved one's care team. Or if you are noticing your loved one engaging in a pattern of behavior, you can film that behavior for the clinician, for the doctor, so that they can also see the bizarre behavior that you're witnessing at home. Now again, this has to be done in a safe and respectful way. So if this is something that your loved one with dementia is not going to appreciate, then don't do it. Third, shift the language with doctors. Avoid vague phrases like, Dr. Sinclair, something's just off. I really have a bad feeling about mom. Avoid that, care partners. Instead, to your care team, highlight your safety concerns that you're noticing. Mom's repeatedly left the stove on, Dr. Sinclair. Mom is not being able to find the bathroom in her own home. Mom in the evening is saying that people are visiting her when I know that that's not happening. I am very concerned for her safety. That kind of language, care partners, that's highlighting functional impairment. Your loved one is no longer functioning in the same way that they used to. So now we've moved from subjective language of, I just don't know, I'm not sure, to a clinical concern. Your loved one's not able to function in their day-to-day. That's a clinical concern. Finally, care partner, I just want to take some time to bust some myths that's out there about dementia, particularly in the early stages of symptomology. Myth number 1, they're just getting older. The truth, care partner, normal aging doesn't cause you to get lost in your own home, in your own neighborhood, doesn't cause you to hallucinate unless something medically is going on, and certainly doesn't cause you to forget your children's names. Forgetting where you parked, that's normal. Forgetting you drove, not normal. Myth number 2, when your sibling says, but they seem fine when I see them. The truth, of course they do. That's social masking, and maybe there's even some contextual memory going on there. They are seeing the highlight reel. You, care partner, you're seeing the full picture. Myth number 3, but they passed the doctor's test, so they're okay. Truth, most standard memory screenings are basic and often miss early stage cognitive changes, especially if the person is still good at social scripting. So if you're seeing changes in judgment, behavior, emotional regulation, or safety, it's time to trust your instincts. You saw it first for a reason. So to recap, care partner, dementia does not show up in the same way for everyone, particularly in those early stages of dementia when your loved one's brain is relying on contextual cues and social masking. And so you are likely seeing these patterns because you're around long enough in a way that others aren't able to see. So don't wait for everyone else to catch up. You are recognizing patterns for a reason. Take this video to help you guide future conversations with your loved one's care team. I hope this was helpful for you. Feel free to check out the next video, Is It Dementia? That will also help you to differentiate some of the symptoms that you're seeing and again, guide your conversations with your loved one's care team. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.